I know that there have been countless breakdowns of John Carpenter's The Thing that go into every minute detail of the film, so by me making a review, I wouldn't be adding anything to the consensus. No, instead, I want to talk about my experiences with the movie and how it has impacted me and my thoughts on it. When I was a child, I used to feign sickness to get out of going to school. I would have the house to myself, which meant I could watch any film I wanted on the big TV. On one of these occasions, I decided to watch The Thing. I was intrigued as my dad was a big John Carpenter and Kurt Russell fan. I had great experiences watching Escape from New York as well as Big Trouble in Little China, and I wanted to see more of their collaborations. However, when I watched it, I was terrified. The grotesque imagery of the dog assimilation and the hybrid of all at the end were entrenched in my mind, and I couldn't escape it. It's safe to say that that day, all I wanted to do was go back to school.
Yeah, fuck you too!
Looking back on the film now in my later years, there is no surprise as to why I was so afraid of it. The practical effects have to be some of the best I've ever seen. 23-year-old Rob Bottin was able to bring to life these grotesque visuals of humans being assimilated and morphed into something incomprehensible by human imagining. The effects sold the threat of what these characters were fighting. They were able to show us how powerless we were against this being, as once it had taken over our body, it could tear us apart like nothing. Our bodies were nothing but a vessel and a weapon to this thing, a point that I don't believe audiences will have taken so seriously without the expert effects. Although the effects were impeccable, it's not that aspect of the film that resonates with me the most as a viewer. That has to go to the psychological terror of the narrative. The film's plot is so simple in its premise, but masterful in its execution. These 12 men are stuck in an Antarctic research facility, with one or more of their team being assimilated by an alien, with their likeness and personalities copied perfectly. This is able to build further on the theme of isolation that is set up by the characters' location. These characters cannot trust one another as they have no idea of each other's sentiments, leading to characters breaking down and infighting between themselves. This all culminates in what has to be my favourite sequence in the film, where Mac has subdued the rest of the team and is testing samples of their blood to see whose will react to the heat. This in elements appears to be taken from an Agatha Christie novel, with Mac playing the role of, say, a Hercule Poirot or a Jane Marple, with the rest of his team being the suspects. However, the tension of this sequence goes that much further than a murder mystery, as the crimes in those novels are committed by a human, and the acts can be deduced through clues and human reasoning. However, with this, it is almost impossible to get a clue as to who's the thing, as it is not human. Its thoughts, its actions, its rationale, it's all alien, and it's uncomprehendable by the human psyche. This element of isolation and unknowing is only further escalated by the closing moments of the film. The film's final sequence depicts Mac catching up with Childs after he has destroyed the Blair thing. The characters' immediate distrust towards one another has sparked much debate over the ending, as Carpenter seemingly leaves clues for the viewer to pick up upon throughout the third act. This works perfectly, as it only adds to the mystery of the film. If he had revealed the true identity of Childs, it would have lowered the impact and the tension that the film had generated up until that point. Furthermore, the film leaves a powerful impact on the viewer, as it allows for much debate surrounding the closing minutes, something which has kept the film in the cultural zeitgeist to this day. Every aspect of this film was pulled off masterfully, from the writing to the music, even the performances and the editing, and this point is only heightened through watching the 2011 remake/prequel. Aptly named The Thing, the film follows the Norwegian camp that is seen in Carpenter's version. From the opening seconds, you feel the echoes of Carpenter's version, but it is lost in the mud of these new filmmakers. You hear Ennio Morricone's now iconic theme that creates a sense of panic to the listener, but that is drowned out by the sound of wind and engines rattling. It is hard to gather any sense of investment as you are bombarded by diegetic and non-diegetic sounds that serve to only confuse the viewer about how they should feel. From there, it becomes a bungled mess. The producers present Hollywood's interpretation of what a horror film should be, all the while attempting to place these characters into the situations they were in when Mac and the team first found them. I know that me bad-mouthing the remake only cops the trend of contemporary film criticism, and it verges on hypocrisy, as the 1982 adaptation is also a remake itself of The Thing from Another World from 1951. However, it's hard to see John Carpenter's The Thing as a remake of this and more of an adaptation of John W.F. Campbell Jr.'s 1938 novel Who Goes There, as Carpenter's adaptation fared much closer to the book than the 1951 film. In closing, I just want to talk about the impact this film has had, not only on me, but culturally. When it was first released, it was destroyed, both critically and commercially.
One of them is, I think, the characters. They're not made into three-dimensional people. Their function is to walk down the corridor and be jumped on.
But over the years, there grew to be an audience for this film. Just like my first viewing, people at the time of release only saw the gore and looked no further, seeing a depressing film that tonally contradicted the cinematic norm. But as it was given a home release, and more people were able to view it, they found much more than surface-level violence, just like I did when I came back to it. Now, this film seems to hold a special place in cinema, being placed between a cult horror and an auteur masterpiece, which echoes my sentiments. Just like The Thing itself, like The Force of Nature, it was able to pull itself from obscurity back into the mainstream due to its brilliance. And in my opinion, it not only stands as one of the greatest horrors, but one of the greatest films of all time.